All right, gorgeous ones, welcome to the Jaclyn Shaw Show. This is a podcast episode that has literally been in the making for 9 months. I have Sabrina Greer here with me today. Sabrina is the founder of fEMPOWER Publishing, the founder of fEMPOWER Global. She runs an incredible foundation. I just spoke at her event this last week and it was extraordinary. She is also the publisher of my first book, Spiritual Smackdown. So we've been on a walk and we've been on a journey together. And gosh, I'm so excited to dive in for this conversation today. So Sabrina, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's such an honor. And yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it?
Well, it's been a while. And of course, like perfect timing because I know the conversation we're going to have today, we couldn't have had before. And I just mentioned this to you before. I'm so happy that we're having this conversation actually after your event and after I got to experience that vision with you. And before we dive into the conversation we want to get into, I'd love for you to share, like, where did this mission come from for you with the publishing and the foundation and all of it?
I love this question because, as we all know, entrepreneurship is not a straight line, nor is life. All right. There's all the little universal breadcrumbs that come in. And I really believe that from my traumas and experiences that back when I was younger, I believe they were happening to me. And in your book, you talk about the victim to goddess and, removing the victim mindset. But as young people, we often feel like a victim, like the world is happening to us. And then I realized as I got older and more emotionally mature and, was a mother myself and started going through these other experiences that it was actually happening for me. And that is somewhat of a cliche sentence, like what happened to me happened for me, the lessons and the wisdom. But I actually believe that that is an incomplete sentence. And there's a comma after it for the world. And now I'm really embodying the for the world part. So my traumas happened to me, yes, but also for me. And now I believe that all of our stories and experiences hold codes for humanity, for the world. And what better way, I went to university for social work and psychology. I thought I was going to be a psychotherapist or a social worker. And that would be my philanthropy. That would be my way to give back. But what I realized is it's really hard to do philanthropy from that angle because it's the wealth and the wisdom and all of the tools and resources that we have that allow us to truly help. Because helping from, and I don't like to make it sound condescending, but like helping from the bottom up, trying to break systemic things from the ground is really hard to do.
I mean, to be honest, like even in what you're talking here, like doing that from empty pockets is a
Yeah,
hard thing to do.
exactly. Yeah. So when I started the work that I do, I thought, how can I really make a difference? And it's going in from the top. It's creating wealth, it's creating abundance, it's creating community and all of the resources that you need to truly make a difference. Because one person cannot change the world alone. And I've really recognized that through this work.
Well, I'm going to just dive right in and tell you, like, you absolutely entered my world at the time that you did as a straight up gift from God. Like when we were introduced, I was at a place where I felt like my voice was trying to be silenced, at a place where it was like I had written my book, it was complete. I didn't want to have like more editing in the sense of like over editing being done. I didn't want my voice stripped away. I didn't want someone to take my book and rip it apart. And that was, some of the advice I had been given. And I was introduced to you, and immediately, like, I could feel your passion in this of like, our stories get to be our stories and our lived truths, like, get to be heard and get to be shared. And part of my messaging is like sharing the truth about our lives is our holy work. And so being introduced to you as I was in that final stage, but like the big stage of getting my book published. I mean, tell me more about this for you because I feel like this is where a lot of women like meet you. It's like, okay, I can write the book and then what happens from here?
Yeah. So my journey into the publishing world, I always knew I wanted to be a writer. I was writing short stories and poetry. And I remember so clearly in grade 3, my teacher said, no, that's not a viable career and you should never even consider that. You should just stop writing now. And then my
In
grade
grade 3.
4 teacher was like, if something in this world doesn't exist, you go out there and you create it. So thankfully, I stuck with Miss Walters, my grade 4 teacher's advice, and not the grade 3 teacher that told me basically to stop living that dream and just, buff it out and go do something useful with my life. And I kept going and I kept writing. So my journey into womanhood, into, this adult body, I started modeling at a very young age. And through that whole experience in the fashion industry and living overseas and having my body treated as a commodity, I kept journals. So I had a story and a powerful story, but not everyone wanted to hear that version of the story. And when I got a publishing deal in 2016, when I was pregnant with my third son, I thought I'd made it. I was so excited. I signed the publishing deal with very little research or education in the publishing industry. I thought, this is it. I made it. I'm done. This is exactly what I've been praying for all these years, decades. And when they read my book, I met Jeffrey Epstein when I was 16 years old, just as an example of some of the things in my story. And they said, sorry, this is too raw, too dark, too depressing, and, not unsimilar to your story. They said, we need to change the story. And I said, absolutely not. That's what I lived. That was my experience. And they said, well, it's not polished enough for the world of like Hollywood book publishing. So I said, okay, well, what do you suggest? And they said, well, either we change the story or we'll replace you. I thought, how do you replace somebody in their own story? And they do that by diluting it, by changing details, by basically making it a fiction. And I said, absolutely not. So it took about 2 years and a lot of money and a lot of energy to win my intellectual property rights back. And I self-published that very book, and we sold about 18 copies. And I said, there has to be a way that's somewhere in the middle. How is it that it's either this way or this way? And there's no in between. So I started deep diving into other modalities of publishing, what else existed in the industry. I really started educating myself on what was available, and what I wanted did not exist. So, thanks to Mrs. Walters, I created it. So I actually trademarked my own modality of publishing called blended publishing, which is what it sounds. It's blending the best of both worlds. So the best of self-publishing, where the author gets to maintain their intellectual property and creative control of their work, while also receiving high-level support as you would from a traditional publishing house. Not just one editor, though. We have multiple editors. We have a design team. We have art directors. We have marketing support. We try to really infuse all of the pieces that make self-published authors' heads explode when they try to go down the rabbit hole that is YouTube or Amazon trying to figure out how to publish a book. So it's the combination. It's very hands-on support with the logistics and very hands-off-ish support with the creativity part. So it allows the author to stay in their vision, to stay in their zone of genius, if you will, and allows us to really hold them through the process. So I think that's why they call me the book doula.
The book doula. Well, this was my experience, and to share, I mean, I've shared a lot about my experience with writing and writing books. And when you and I first met, I didn't know. Like, I knew that I didn't want to self-publish. Like, that was very clear for me from the beginning. And I had so many people tell me, like, I've self-published. I have the resources for you. I can share this with you and this with you and this with you. And it's actually easier. And I was like, I just knew that it was a no for me. And then I went down the pathway of traditional publishing. I really thought, it was the way that I was going to go. And then you and I had a conversation, and immediately I was like, okay, this feels genius. Like, this feels genius. This feels like a yes, because with this book, and it's so personal to me, it's my memoir, it's my story, it's my wisdom. I want to have that creative control, and I want to have the support. Now, at the time, I had also shared with you that I was meeting with a traditional publisher. And so I was like, let me have that conversation before we like fully commit. And within that conversation, I'm actually so grateful for that publisher because she said to me, she's like, I actually don't think you want to go this route with your book. She's like, because like I take full creative control. I design the cover. I decide if I don't want chapter 14 in your book, it doesn't go in your book. I decide if I want chapter 28 to be chapter 2, it does. And I was like, yeah, yeah, no, that is like absolutely not what I want. But to be honest, I didn't even know before that conversation or before the conversation with you that that's how that worked.
Yeah.
That actually is what happens. And so coming in and like my experience with you was so extraordinary. Everything from like the process, the editing, the like, it was what like, not to recommend this to anyone else, but we were like, we moved on a fast timeline, and so like it was like a week or two before that was still like there was like little bit of edits being made and words changing, not again from perfection, but going through it was like, oh yeah, there's this and there's this, and because we did the audiobook recording together, gosh, like anytime I see, I just saw this the other day, one of your authors that was speaking at the event, then she was in the recording studio recording her audiobook, and like just bring me back there, like this process with you was so extraordinary, so supportive, and then not only just supportive, but also like having you there as it was launching, and you came to my in-person book launch in Toronto, and then being able to celebrate with you. Like, of course, I also had people in my life that I was celebrating, but you really saw me through that whole finish line. And I know a lot of your clients come and work with you to write the book. And I came with you after the book was written and felt so, held in that journey and felt like it's my book and it's our book.
And that's what it feels like to me too. And I think, we're a boutique publishing house. We only publish 16 titles a year. And those titles are handpicked not only by the content. It's not about content for us. It's about energy, it's about story, it's about those codes that I mentioned before. I really see us, women, our sort of age range, as the ancestors of the future. And the girls, and we can talk about the charity and the foundation and stuff in a minute, but the girls that we support through the charity are the women of the future. So if we're the ancestors of the future, what do we want to leave behind? What is the legacy that we're leaving behind? And I believe that so many women's voices not only have been silenced, but written out of history. Quite literally, this has happened. So I really, whether it was a message from God or I woke up one day and was like, okay, this is my purpose. This is what I'm here to do. Because I don't have all the stories. I have a lot of stories and I have a lot of experiences, but not all of them. So my role here on this planet is to collect the powerful voices of women who are brave enough and courageous enough to share their story with the world as it is, without changing it, without diluting it, without finessing it into something that's whatever, that's not what it is. And really just amplifying those voices in the world for generations to come. And your story was one of those. So I have people come to work with me at all different stages of their book. Some have 0 words on the page and just know they have a book in their soul. Some have fully formed manuscripts that are almost ready for publication. Some have already published a book, maybe with a different avenue of publishing, whether it's self-publishing or with a publisher, and then they come to us because they want to amplify the code part of their voice. So I work with people at all different stages, but it's not even about being picky. It's the energy that magnetizes to us and is ready to be amplified in this way. So we only work with women. We only work with women in this nonfiction space. So memoirs, prescriptive nonfiction, narrative nonfiction, a lot of storytelling is involved in the process. And yeah, I don't have all the stories. So we work with people from all different religious backgrounds, all different cultural backgrounds, very different stories. But the through line is that their story is their story that needs to be amplified out into the world.
Well, this is definitely something like I'm excited for what I know you're bringing forward and some of the titles and authors you're publishing this year, because I've definitely had a lot of women come to me since publishing my book, and a lot of clients that have came to me and said, okay, like I've got this book. and who do I work with? Where do I go? And I'm like anyone that's like, I've got a message and it's like, and it's, whatever unconventional, let's call it. It's unconventional, or it's this, or I'm not willing to have it altered. It's like, I'm always like, Sabrina is your girl. Like, Sabrina is the person that you want to work with because I know how important it is for you to allow women's voices to be heard and to keep that message and that truth and that story intact.
Yeah.
Now, saying all this, let's dive into, because this part of the conversation I know is not uncomfortable for you or I, and yet I feel like people meet us with thinking that there's like something uncomfortable in this next bit of the conversation. And so we worked together on my first book. I am now in the publishing stages of my second book, and we're not working together on the second book. And so anyone who's heard me say the story of like the experience I had with the editor who was really uncomfortable with my second book, I'm going to make it clear that she is not associated with fEMPOWER. She's associated with a different publisher. That publisher has also been incredible. That situation got corrected for me. But the deeper conversation I want to have around this is that, I mean, I know that you've been met with this question. I've been met with this question. Like, what's the reason why? Why aren't you publishing Jaclyn's second book? Was there a fallout? Is there a break in that relationship? What is this? And the truth is, I mean, I can share the actual truth and the unfolding of it, but beyond the like details of the truth is that we're two women supporting each other and following our paths. And I know that we're going to intertwine in and out of different ways that we work together. It would not shock me at all if one of my future books we end up publishing together. Like, my experience with you was nothing but extraordinary. You invited me to speak on your stage and at your event after you knew that I was publishing my book in a different way for my second book. And I want to bring this conversation forward because I think oftentimes we think, well, if something must have happened or something's broken or something was wrong. And for me, I mean, there's many different reasons. And one of them being I'm a line 6 in my human design. I like experiences. I really thought I was going to go down the path of traditional publishing for my first book, then realized that wasn't an option, not an option, something I didn't want to choose when I had that conversation I just met with the publisher. But through that conversation, that same publisher offered to publish my second book. And I was like, I actually want the experience of both. I knew for the first book, I wanted the experience in the hybrid publishing, and I knew I wanted the experience of traditional publishing to see what that experience was like for me, to see if I liked it, to see if I hated it. And I felt like the second book was going to allow me to do that and allow me to have that experience. And in fact, I made that decision, which I made that decision the same day I made the decision to work with you. I made the decision on my first book publishing route and my second book publishing route at the very same time because
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Well, and the third book, maybe you'll self-publish. And the fourth book,
I mean, I don't think so.
maybe
Let's
you'll
hold on.
start
No, I
your
don't
own
want to.
publishing house. Like, who knows? And that's definitely part of this conversation because I've mentored authors who, like, one of my authors published her book with us and then published her like a anthology with multi-authors that she leveraged her community, and that now she owns her own publishing house, of which I mentored her and supported her in starting.
Mm,
So for me, it's not about competition. And I hear women say this all the time, community over competition, and not mean it. But I mean it. The work that I do is important and it's not for everybody. And I believe truly deeply in my soul that the more women who are in this industry, who are publishing, who are writing books, who are amplifying voices, who are speaking, who are doing real work in the amplification of voices, it's better that way. The more, the merrier, truly. Like, bring more women into publishing, bring more women's voices forward. And how that happens is none of my business. Right? And
mm,
it's like I got to read a little snippet from your second book, and it's incredible, and I cannot wait for it to be published, and I'm going to buy a copy and I'm going to share it. And that's that. It's wild to me that people assume that there has to be a break in something to try something new. that's not a belief of mine. I really believe that we all need to experience things the way we experience it. It's like, just because I like going to a Thai restaurant doesn't mean I'm never going to go to eat something else ever again in my life. And it doesn't mean that I can't still love that restaurant for the rest of time, right? We want to go taste other things and experience other things. And that's what makes life abundant and whole.
Yeah. I mean, this is the conversation. This is why we've been saying that we wanted to have it for a bit, because this for me is like that real part of the conversation is just the idea that something has to be broken, that there's something wrong, that there's something that would need to be fixed, that there has to be a reason why. And there's been a lot of things like happening in my world lately, a lot of things that we could label as like broken even. And I think this is where we tend to at times want to go down to like why and the why and the why, and there's got to be a reason. And I even remember when my best friend and first business partner like completed in our business, they're like, oh yeah, you're showing that like you're still friends and you're still, but like there must have been a reason why. And people still ask us all the time, they're like, are you guys still friends? And I'm like, what a weird question to ask, because I know usually that question is asked with the energy behind of like, well, if you're still friends, why wouldn't you still be doing business together? Like something must have happened, something must have broken. And in our case, it was like we both wanted to go down different pathways. We both felt complete. We actually wanted to spend more time in friendship together than time in business partnership together. And I will say my most powerful moves have always been when I've been willing to move and make power pivots and choose something new, not from the frequency of broken, not from the frequency of not working, but just because that's what feels true for me. Just because that feels complete, or just because God spoke and moved me in this direction, or just because I want to have a different experience, or because I want to have multiple experiences, both experiences. And I mean, I'm in love with my second book, but it doesn't have the same, I'm going to say, emotional attachment that I had to the first book, in the sense of it really being delivered the way that it was delivered. And when I say I didn't have the same emotional attachment, I mean that could be a bit of a stretch, because I also was absolutely not willing to like change words and have things ripped out of the second book. But I knew that I was like, okay, if one of these chapters disappears, I'm okay with that, because it didn't change the narrative of the story. And so I was like, okay, the first book I was wanted to be in, let's say, creative control of. And the second one, I'm like, I'm more in the frequency of allowance. I'm open to it because they're different books, because I wrote from in a different way. It's a different style of book. And I mean, the incredible thing for me right now is that I've had two incredible experiences. Like I had the most incredible experience with you, and I'm having the most incredible experience with the publishing of my second book. And I'm working with a publisher who had my back immediately when the editing team was off for me, because it was off for me. And so yeah, I just want to like one, thank you for the support that you've offered me, and for this conversation and the work that we do together, because I think it's the such a disservice to our work and our world when we think that somebody else chooses something else, and now it has to be broken, or now there's like an off energy between us, or now do you know what I mean? Like anything, like I think of this in terms of my work. And if a client chooses to go work with another mentor, I'm not going to make that mean that there's something wrong with me or something wrong with her. It's just like part of the journey. It's different experiences. It's where your soul's feeling called in one moment. And for me, it's like doors always open. Like I never see anything as like, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Like you said, I mean, I will tell you self-publishing is not going to happen, but who
Fair.
knows? Like many doors open.
Yes. Well, and I love that because it's in the frequency of truth, like truth being the most important thing. That's why I do this work. That's why you do the work that you do. It's so that we can be true to who we are and help other people be true to who they are. So who would I be? I'd be a total hypocrite if I was like, oh, actually, no, like we're on contract and I own you for the rest of time. So No, we'll be like, how awkward would that be? It'd just be so strange. It's like, no, when you told me you were, you had a different publishing plan for your second book, I was like, yes, okay, tell me about your book. Like, can I read it? At least let me read it, right? Like, I
Yeah.
was excited for you, genuinely, and I still am, and I will be for the rest of time. And that's just the way it is.
Well, this truth frequency here, because I think like this for me is such an important piece. I was also willing to speak truth to you from the beginning. I was willing to speak truth to the other publisher from the beginning. Like I actually, before I signed either contract, made sure I was clear and said, this is my plan for my second book. Does this create any interference for us in the contract in my first book? Same thing with her. I went to her and said, okay, this is going to be the second book published. This is the first book. I don't know about the third. Does that create, like, am I free after the second book to choose what I want for the third book? Like, I was willing to have those conversations without knowing, like with this other publisher, I didn't know if I said I want to be free within my third book, if she was going to say, well, actually, that's not the way it works. And if I publish your first book or your second book, you have to give me your third. Like, I didn't know if me saying that was going to be like, actually, that changes things. Now I don't want to publish your second because I just didn't know. But it's like being willing to have those truthful conversations. I think where things often get, let's say, distorted in the energy field is when we're not willing to have those conversations. So if I would have just been like, okay, I'm gonna go do this with Sabrina, but then I'm also gonna be having these conversations over here, and I hope they never find out, or when they do find
Yes.
out, it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like I think that's where things really get murky for people. But when we're honest and when we're truthful, like that gives you the opportunity to be met with acceptance, to be met in truth. And like you said, you got to then show up as who you are in that conversation.
Yeah,
But if I would have tried to hide it from you, or if I would have tried to position it differently, or if I would, you know what I mean? Like that's what breaks relationships. That's what breaks things when you're not willing to actually just speak the truth and be the truth.
absolutely. And I think the lesson in here for the listener is, where are you doing this in your life, hiding out of guilt or shame, feeling like maybe because you are worried about hurting someone's feelings, where are you acting a little bit shady instead of just coming forward and saying, this is my truth, this is how I choose to operate, this is the path it's going to be. We good? We're good, right? It
And
sounds so
and
simple. In practice, I think it's a little more difficult than, it's easy to say, harder to do.
yeah, and I think because, and I mean, I get it on one hand, but also don't really get it in the sense, or maybe I just never would have anticipated this. And because I've been such a like advocate in your corner and my experience with you and our relationship, it did surprise me a bit when people assumed that there was something off, something broken. And I was like, I was just like, that is fascinating to
Fascinating.
me. Like fascinating that it's like, oh yeah, that there's, assumption that there's something wrong. Because obviously, like the last thing I would ever want anyone to think is that I had, I mean, a not great experience with you, because I absolutely do. Otherwise I wouldn't continue to recommend you to
Yeah,
clients, to friends. And so it's just been like such a, I mean, in many different ways for me, such a interesting experience that I've had this last little while of seeing like how much we let assumption really influence us.
yes. In all aspects of our life. I remember
Yeah.
writing about expectation a while back, and I was doing some research, and there was this whole scene where, you know, it was an anniversary between a couple, and the partner was expecting something to happen, like a dinner and, all of the things and all the stuff, but they didn't say anything. They didn't say, I would really love for our anniversary if you would cook me dinner. That wasn't a conversation. It was just an expectation in the person's head. Like, oh, they're going to cook dinner, they're going to do this big special thing. And they came home and nothing had been done and nothing was going on. And there was disappointment. It's like, where's the break in that? And I think it's a break in communication, because if you just say, here's my expectations, here's what I would really love, you're not planting a seed in a negative way. You're asking for what you want. And I think this happens with partners, it happens in friendships, it happens in business relationships, it happens with God. We have to put out there what we want. We have to express ourselves in our truth and say, this is what I'm hoping for. Because otherwise we're expecting everyone to read our minds and understand, right? So I think that's a big part of communication too, and why communication breaks down is expectations.
Yeah. And also within that, I mean, because I'm bringing this back to our experience, because immediately as you were saying, it's like, and being willing to like ask for things without knowing that there is a solution already in existence. Like how I found you is I went into one of the spaces that I was leading as a mentor and said, this is my experience right now with my book. And I didn't say, hey, does anyone even know of any? I was like, this is my experience. I'm not willing to put this book forward until I find a way to bring it forward in my truth and to not dilute it and to not have the story ripped out. And then I had like 10 people message me, do you know Sabrina? Do you know Sabrina? Do you know Sabrina? And it was, speaking my truth in that space and allowing the next piece of the puzzle to be revealed to me. But it didn't take me going out and like needing to even like figure it out or control it or whatever it is. And then I just showed up to a conversation with you, to be honest, with very little expectation because I had no idea. I had no idea that what you've created and having blended, like I didn't even know blended publishing was a thing. So it's like,
Because
how open can we
it's
be?
not. I
Well,
trademarked it, and it's a little teeny
well, it
tiny little
wasn't.
thing.
It
It
is.
was.
It is a thing.
It
It
is now.
wasn't a thing, but now it is a thing. With this, and to wrap us up in this, I do want to touch on, you did mention the foundation. And like I said, you were just at this incredible event where I got to meet and hear from one of your authors. I am almost done reading her book. And like this part of your movement moves me so deeply. So I'd love to hear you share just a bit more about that.
Yeah, it was almost exactly a year ago. It was March 25th of 2025. And I woke up at 4:44 a.m., which is not an uncommon experience for me. And I just started writing things down. So channeled, I don't know. I just started writing things down. It made no sense. My husband was looking at me like I'd lost my mind. And it was like, start a charity, build it from nothing, like just all of your principles, you'll know what to do, just do it, like blah, 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 just all these pages and pages of mumbo jumbo of things that made absolutely no sense. I put it away. I thought, what was that? And then that it kept hitting me. It kept coming back to me like, start a charity. I don't know how to start a charity. I'm busy. I have 3 kids. I've got 3 properties. I've got a business. I'm very close with all my clients. It's like, I don't have time to start a charity. God, what are you talking about? Stop it. And it just kept coming back. It's like, start a charity, start a charity, start a charity. So I figured it out. It's actually really challenging to have a registered charity within your first year. So we started as a nonprofit. Within 2 months of starting the nonprofit, we had our first event, which was the inaugural Dream Her Brunch. And I pulled together a board of directors of all women within my community, some authors, lawyers, doctors, people who are experienced in philanthropy. And they all said yes, aside from 2 people. The 15 people I asked, 13 of them said yes. And that was born. And I had a business plan that flowed through me and all of the things. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am seriously a conduit for this work, and that is all. And then the event was amazing. We raised $11,000, which gave us enough funds to launch our first program, which was called the Write Her Scholarship. And this year we published Gina Uriani, who is our scholarship recipient. And, she was an orphan in the Congo and was adopted by a Canadian family. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. And her book is actually live on Amazon next Tuesday, which I'm so excited about. So it'll be available everywhere where books are available because we were able to give her a full ride scholarship through the foundation. This year, the event that you spoke at, which I'm so grateful for, we raised over $35,000. So like more than 3 times what we did last year. We are a registered charity because we got our registration in under a year, which is virtually unheard of. And, we had over 200 women registered for this event, and we're just going to keep on going. So the goal is really to amplify the voices of young girls and show them that they can be the creators of influence before they fall victim to being influenced by all the negative energies that are out there, TikTok and social media and, all of this stuff that can be really negative, but it can also be a really great way to amplify your voice if used safely and appropriately. So that's really the goal.
Oh my gosh. And I'll tell you, like, I mean, Gina, when she spoke at the brunch and shared her story, and we had all just received her book and didn't know much of her story other than like knew that she was the scholarship recipient of this event, like had us all in tears. Like
Volunteers, not a dry
this,
eye.
yeah, not a dry eye. And like it's actually making me feel emotional right now. This like really that you're using your platform, your magic, your medicine to like allow women's voices to be heard. Like I'm so grateful for you and so grateful for this work and your publishing and your event and your magic and your medicine and your support. Like thank you. And thank you for always being in my corner. Thank you for this conversation. Like this work. You know, you said it earlier, like women's voices have been erased for far too long. And so choosing for you to like lead in a movement where you just don't stand for that. Like I'm obsessed.
Thank you. And as a mom, like I have 3 sons, and people say to me all the time, like, how are you a feminist if as a boy mom? Like, how do you only work with women and why do you choose it this way? And I said, because my most important work that I do is at home, raising the men of the future. And then the second most important work I do is with my publishing house and the charity.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Tell us, where's the best ways to find you? Where's the best ways to follow you, to support your journey, to support this foundation?
I would say Instagram. I try to stay super active there. My personal one is the Sabrina Greer, and then everything is linked on that, the publishing house and the charity, and all of the crazy side adventures I get up to. So that's probably the best way. But if you're interested in the charity, it's www.fempowher with an H .global. And that's where you can donate, you can see what events we have coming up, and all of the things. So
Amazing. We're going to link all of that here. We'll link it here. We'll also link Gina's book because it will be out in the world by the time this airs as well. And so again, just like, thank you. Thank you for your patience in bringing this conversation with me forward here today. And just like, you're such a gift to this world. And so I'm so happy that we got to be here and we got to have this conversation and share you and your magic and your medicine in this way.
oh, well, thank you for having me. I am so grateful, and it's been such an honor. And I can't wait to have future conversations too.